Hi, everyone, and welcome to the third session in our 2022-2023 Innovations in Early Childhood series of workshops. We're really excited to see many of our regular attendees and to have new friends joining us. Today, we're centering our workshops this year on the concept building from strengths, children, families, and communities in pandemic times, because we really feel like after many years of focusing on deficit, we really wanted to think about and look at what are the strengths and what are sort of the powerful things that we're seeing emerging in classrooms, in schools, and for educators during this time. All of our sessions will continue to be virtual, and your registration today ensures that you will receive email announcements and registrations for the next of our innovation series. We're hoping we'll have another one for you in the springtime, and you'll also receive a certificate for professional development at the end of this session. Just a couple of Zoom norms and housekeeping before we move forward. We ask everybody to just turn their sound off. We are recording tonight because we want to be able to share this with educators who aren't able to attend this evening. So if you'd rather not be recorded, please make sure to put your camera, turn your camera off for us. Closed captioning should be available should you want to use that. Please enter any questions that you have during the presentation and workshop in the chat, and then we also will have time for questions at the very end. And finally, our speakers today are asking that we have participants bring some kind of piece of paper for drawing, a ruler, or something with a pencil, and markers or colored pencils. It's going to be a little bit interactive. So if you have a chance to grab those materials, you'll want to use them. So this evening, we are hosting an incredible panel that are looking at land as pedagogy, comparative approaches to stewardship of our environment. A relationship to land is critical for children if we are to live sustainably and solve problems that threaten the survival of our planet. In this workshop, they will be looking at efforts to both maintain and revive a connection with the land. We will travel to Cameroon to explore agricultural education at a farm school. We will also hear about a local program in Dorchester, which seeks to help children reestablish a relationship to the land by providing access to green space and gardens. And we're just so excited to have all of these panelists with us here today. I get to introduce Veronica Quillian, who is part of our Lesley faculty, and then she will share about our other incredible presenters. So Veronica Quillian is a daughter of the Bassa people of Cameroon. Dr. Quillian is an assistant professor in the Graduate School of Education at Lesley University, teaching in the Early Childhood and Integrated Arts program. She specializes in the revitalization of educational domains as practiced among the Bassa people of Cameroon. Although an art explorer, she particularly plays with cameras, geographical information systems, GIS, and comics to reclaim and recreatively document stories of knowledge transmission. And now I will turn the evening over to Veronica to introduce our panel of speakers, and thank you so much to all of you.
Thank you so much, Dana, for this wonderful introduction. I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint that I have created to walk us through the program this evening, and we'll go from there to set the stage for what is to happen today. So what we will do in the beginning is welcome and introduce the panelists.
Hello.
Then we will have a story that will ground us in what we are going to experience with our panelists. From there, we will have the centers be introduced. The set of panelists that we have today both belong to a center. So they'll introduce their centers. And then we will have Q&A with the panelists, and then we'll open it up to a community conversation. So here is the panelists that we have from the Centre Agroécologique Jean-Macon Baïha. We have Elder Micheline Niemek Moi Baïha, who's the co-founder of the center. And we have Ardell Baïha Moi O'Brien, who is the Director of Sustainable Development. At Epiphany School, we have Natasha Schillingford, who is the Director of the Early Learning Center and Ash Inglis, who is the Director of Garden and Sustainability. I will invite, I'm gonna turn off the PowerPoint and invite all panelists to unmute, and we will begin this conversation, which is really about a comparative look at what stewardship means from a rural environment in Cameroon, and then we have an urban environment in Dorchester, Massachusetts. So this is what we're learning about, and it sets really a really good impetus for what stewardship means, both in the US and abroad. So without further ado, I'm gonna call in, starting with Elder Micheline, who is our elder tonight. So I will call her in to introduce herself. And she will do so by answering 3 specific questions. Who are you? Who are your people? And where are your lands and rivers? And those same prompts will also apply to our 3 other panelists. Elder Micheline, if you don't mind, please unmute and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I'm going to introduce myself as we do it first in Cameroon. That's how we know everybody. Jojemle Micheline Nyemek. Man Nyemek Raphael. Nengonjip Marie Salome. Min lulba kabo makak. Maybe kenano malmahang libi. That means my name is Micheline Nyemek, daughter of Raphael Nyemek and Marie Salome Ngonjip from Bakabo Makak. And I have been transplanted to Malmaang through my marriage to Eugene Bayiha Bamakon. My land currently is in Makak and in Matom, Malmaang. My people are from both communities because as a woman, I still belong to my family in case I am no longer married. So I keep track and I keep ties with where I come from Makak. And as a married woman to Eugene Bayihabamakon, my land and my people and the surrounding waters are in Malmeang, Matom.
Thank you, Elder Micheline. And I must disclose that Elder Micheline is actually my mother. So I want to put that out there so that everybody knows and there's no confusion as we walk through. The next person that I'm going to call up is actually Natasha Shellingford from the Epiphany Center. If you could please unmute and introduce yourself, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. My name is Natasha Shillingford. I'm from, my mom is Huguette Shillingford. It's a very different name. And I rarely say her natural name because she used to get really uncomfortable because people always ask her about where's Huguette from. It's such a different name. And my father's name is John Pierre. And I'm from Barbados. My father's from St. Lucia, and my mother's family's from Martinique and Guadeloupe. I currently reside in Dorchester, but my heart and everything else in me belongs to Barbados.
Thank you so much, Natasha, for that introduction. I'm gonna go, I don't know who between Ash and Ardell is older, but just to give place to women, because women are really at the center of this, I'm gonna call to Ardell to introduce herself, and we'll close with Ash at the end. Ardell?
Hi, everybody. My name is Ardell Bayeha Noah O'Brien. Where am I? So if I refer to your questions, Veronica, which is, who am I? I am the daughter of Eugène Bayeha Bamakon, as well as Micheline Niemek Noa Bayeha. And with that information, I think the other disclosure is there. I am Veronica's little sister. And my people, and I am also married to an American born from Wisconsin, more precisely Lake Nebagamon, Wisconsin. So who are my people? As a Bassa woman, I follow the same path as my mother. So my people are the people of Mamang, Cameroon, as well as the people in Lake Nebagamon, Wisconsin. And as the name says, where is your land? It's in Lake Nebagamon, Wisconsin. It's this beautiful lake, and if nobody has ever been to Wisconsin, I ask you to go to Wisconsin, and precisely Lake Nebagamon. It's very beautiful during during summer, not winter. And my land and water is also in Cameroon, Malmang, and yeah, I guess that's where I am. And like Natasha, I cannot really say that my heart belongs to a particular place, just because I've been so much everywhere. So I'm just going to say I'm a world citizen. That's where my heart is at. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ardell. And Ash, please do us the honor of closing this introduction round.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ash Ingalls. My pronouns are they, them. And my mom, Allison, is on this Zoom right now with us. I was born on a small island called Nantucket in Massachusetts. It's 32 miles out to sea in the Atlantic Ocean. And it's the traditional homeland of the Wampanoag people. And I grew up spending a lot of time by the ocean and in the woods outside. And I now live in Boston. And this piece of land that Natasha and I are sitting on right now in different offices in the same building is between the Neponset River and the Charles River. And we're not too far from the Blue Hills. And we have a lot of gardens, and we're excited to tell you all about them. And my people come from Scotland and from England and from North Carolina. I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So now that we know who our panelists are, I would like to tell you a little bit how we will engage through this process. So I'm gonna bring back the slide for us to see how we will engage. So Dana at the beginning asked you to grab some pens, pencil, papers, because we're going to engage in an art making. And so this presentation is going to be multisensory. It will call to mostly your sight, sound, and touch. And so after we engage into the art making to really settle into this space, into this particular workshop, we will then listen to stories, and those stories will be between Elder Micheline, Ardell, Natasha, and Ash. Then we will open the conversation. We will open for a community conversation where you will each have a chance to answer any questions that spark any interest or really engage with us into this this examination really of what stewardship means from people who are trying to reconnect to the land in an urban setting, and people who are trying to maintain their connection to the land in a rural setting. So that's how our evening will run. So now we will listen to a story and then draw what it is that we saw when we heard that story. And just so you don't get overboard or get some type of anxiety when we are doing this art making, I'm not asking you to be Picasso. Stick figures work. being abstract work, if as you hear the story, what is happening for you is that you see some abstractness, draw it. The purpose is really for you to connect with your heart and soul to really be engaged fully in this workshop. I'm gonna stop sharing this and I'm going to pull up the story that I'm going to be reading so that people can hear and also see the story that is being read. And the title of the story is The Little Girl and the Sugar Cane. All right, so let's read the story. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. The Little Girl and the Sugar Cane. My great-grandmother, Mbombo, and I worked the land every day. We began by me watching her use the hoe to till the soil. After, we walked to the river to fetch water for the soil, and then she poured the water onto the soil and tilled the soil some more. After we finished, we walked back home to prepare the grains. At home in the communal outdoor space, Mbombo spread the ground nuts in the flat aluminum container, and we only selected the grains that were whole. Any other grain that indicated the possibility of a bad harvest was put aside for consumption. The following day or two, Mbombo planted the seeds. Again, we walked to the river to fetch water. This time, the water was for both the soil and the grain. We watered them both, and we also cleaned all around the furrows. The sugarcane plants high above the ground protected the new grain from getting too much sun. When we returned home, we prepared the consumption groundnuts to make groundnut butter. We first grilled the groundnuts and then let them cool down for the afternoon. From time to time, Mbombo rubbed the groundnuts in her palm to remove the skin. After the groundnut gained room temperature, we prepared the grinder and locked it on a tabouret. The first grind was the most important because it reveals the quality of the groundnut butter. Mbombo felt this texture with her hands, and if it did not have the expected quality, she moved some levels up and down. When the groundnut butter was ready, we usually ate it with boiled cassava or bread. After a while, my consumption of peanuts grew. When I got curious and manifested the desire to do like her, Mbombo gave me a small hoe, and I worked the soil just like her. When I could safely handle the hoe, she gave me a small piece of land and told me I could plant whatever I wanted. I naturally planted only groundnuts. When I was tired and did not want to work anymore, she cut and cleaned the sugarcane for me to chew and extract the sweetness. The juice boosted my energy, and a full log was usually enough to keep me going. So let's take the next 3 minutes to draw what we heard through this story. Remember, no Picassos unless you're Picasso, all right? So I'm gonna put the timer and we'll come back on at 3 minutes. Thank you. Just under a minute. Please wrap up your last curve, add your last colors. And please, I would like to call for 2 or 3 volunteers to share their drawing. All right, all right, all right. Let's see, what did we see when we heard the story? Do we have any volunteer who would like to share their imagination? All right, we have 2. Elder Samarit, so good to have you here. Please go ahead and share your image of what you saw when you heard the story.
It's such an honor to be here and to be here with your family. So this is my drawing. I really connected with the little girl, the water, the sugarcane, and the presence of the grandmother was so big and strong, and I didn't exactly know how to do that. And so I have her, there's a circle that embraces the whole place, that is the ancestral energy as well as the grandmother.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your representation, Elder.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Maya. Maya, so good to see you. Please do come ahead and share your image.
Hi, it's an honor to be with everyone tonight. I drew the grandmother standing and bending over to tend to the sugarcane, and the granddaughter kind of following her example next to the water and the sugarcane growing all above them. Thank you, Veronica.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your image. Natasha, please come ahead and do share.
Well, I love the sugarcane. I'm going to see if I can put this up here. It's kind of light, but right here, I don't know if you notice, right here is lots of sugarcane. And I'm vividly remembering my great grandmother's house. And it's right here. It had a silver galvanized roof, right? And the wooden house all the way across, and the windows, and right out into the yard. I used to run out every single day, because every single day I actually ate sugarcane. So I would just I would just break it off from right outside, because literally right from the back door, I'd run into the cane field and break the sugarcane off. And since I was a little girl, I knew how to take the husk off, and I would just suck the sweet juice off, and I would do that all day long. So the story really made me remember that wonderful moment of doing that every single day. And here's my grandmother by the door, because she knows I'm gonna run right out into the sugarcane field and get some sugarcane to eat. And this was every day. So the story really brought back that memory for me with my great grandmother.
Oh, thank you. And this is exactly like all the images and the representations that were shared are exactly how I wanted to center how I wanted all of us to center, because it brings memories, it brings ancestors with us, it brings so many pieces of our environment and what we know and what we grew up in. And this is really the idea that we are trying to bring forth in this conversation that we have around stewardship. And for some of us, it's a way of life. and others, because we've been so disconnected from that reality, we are trying to reconnect back to it. So with that, it's a great segue because now we get to go into the centers and see who they are, what they do, and how they engage with community. Let's start with the documentary film, and then we will move into the PowerPoint presentation. So give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up the documentary film for us to watch. Do not worry if you don't hear any sound. It's a silent documentary film. And the reason why it was made silent is because when you go into the forest, there is a serenity that surrounds you. And I wanted people to understand and feel what that serenity is like by just watching the images, and hopefully it will evoke other memories for you or will connect you in different ways. Yeah. right. Now we're going to move to Epiphany School. Oh, thank you for the applause that I'm seeing through the screen. Thank you, thank you. We're going to move to Epiphany School and see really what their work has been in the last year or so, if I believe. So I'm going to pull up the slide and they will walk us through their work as well.
Also, because we care a lot about food justice and having outdoor spaces in the city, we have our garden program. And it's something that everybody who's part of the school can use. And our garden program is also very young. It started around the same time as the Early Learning Center, so also about 5 years old. And just an overview of our gardens, you'll see a little picture of each, and then we'll tell you some more about what we do in them and why we have these gardens. But along the street, and thousands of people walk past this every day, is our pollinator garden. And then we have our vegetable garden, which is also right along the street. And then further back, we have a rain garden, which is to prevent stormwater from rushing off our property and flooding anywhere. And so rather than having a ditch, we have a garden. And then we have a greenhouse, which in this cold climate helps us be able to do gardening year round. And then finally, our early learners are able to learn in the outdoor classroom all year. So they have a very safe outdoor classroom at the back of the property that's far from the street. We can go to the next slide to show you some pictures of the vegetable garden. I like to tell people that the vegetable garden is really the heart and soul of our garden program, because we grow food so that we can feast together as a community. And we started off small 5 years ago with those raised beds that you see in the top left there. And in the years since then, we've added more and more beds to grow more food. And we've shifted towards growing more and more culturally important foods from all around the world. We have people in our community from all over the place, and we ask folks what they love to eat, and have worked on making sure that we're finding those seeds and hoping that all of our students can see themselves reflected in what we're growing and also learn about other people. And we can go to the next slide. You can see here in this next one just how much the gardens have grown from those first 10 beds to, you'll see in a moment with the next slide, now we have over 21 garden beds out front. And you can see our very first potato harvest last year. And we love to cook in the garden with our older students and also our younger students. And in the bottom right, you can see one of the moms who's been the most involved in the garden this whole time, learning about how to pull garlic with her daughter.
And over on the left, you see our youngest ones working with, in the other slide, yes, working with the middle schoolers. So we really wanted to make sure that there was a collaborative process going on between the middle schoolers and our little ones. And they're so excited to be in the garden and to work with the older kids. So
yeah, and that's been really awesome. And so we can show you some pictures of the pollinator garden in the next slide. This is a garden that our older students in the 5th grade study. They study the relationship between plants and insects and animals. And so they're able to learn here about, you can see we found out that butterfly milkweed would be really great for our butterflies. We planted it, and there's a monarch butterfly. This is another garden where we're able to have the older students work with the younger students. In the bottom, you see one of our graduates who's in high school working with a preschooler to pick some flowers, and then they painted with the flowers afterwards. And we've been working on really developing ongoing relationships with our plants. So you can see in the bottom right, some of our 5th graders chose their favorite flowers, and then they saved their seeds in the fall so that we could plant them again the next year. We can go on to the next slide.
And the pollinator garden is amazing because we in the classrooms, we always do the life cycle of butterflies, and it is such a perfect place to come. It's like a ceremony. We bring them all out in the front of the pollinator garden and we let them go there. And I mean, it is just so much fun for the kids to see the natural cycle of how things work. And people just love walking by, watching us do this. You know, it's such a community builder. People stop and talk to us about what's going on. And then the children get to share their knowledge about what they just learned about to people walking by, going to the train station or getting the bus. So it's really nice.
And it's also really fun in the pollinator garden. Just when I'm working out there with kids or by myself, I get to know my neighbors. So at this point, I think in the city, often we don't know our neighbors, especially with high turnover of people moving. But I really feel like I feel very safe because I know everybody on the street because I'm out there gardening, and then they come and ask us for plants too. And we're able to share seeds like that as well. And then towards the back, we have this really interesting garden, the rain garden. And you can see on the top left, when it rains, it just fills up with water. And so we had to choose plants that would be able to thrive in this situation of being completely flooded and then completely dry. And it's been a long project of figuring out what does best out there. But now it's a really wild area, which is very unique in the city and makes for a really fun place for our early learners and our older students to explore throughout all of the different seasons. And then we can go to the next slide and show you our greenhouse. So we have this great privilege of having a 4-season greenhouse that is heated and warm in the winter. We have fish, and one of the goals of the greenhouse is to have a sanctuary space for our community throughout the year to just take a break, rest, and recharge. And then in the top left, you can see we also start thousands of little baby plants inside the greenhouse that we then put outside in our vegetable garden, and we're able to give away over 1,000 plants every year to our community members, whether those are families or parents, or, you know, we're able to give them also to community gardens up the street. And anybody who wants some plants and finds out about it can come by. We're able to grow plants in our greenhouse since it's so warm that are tough for people to find in the grocery store. And that's been really fun to try growing new things each year.
And our little ones love being in that space. You can see them enjoying the dirt. And that, I mean, that is just a staple, having fun playing in the dirt. We always start with making of materials first before we just start a task. You know, we just present it and see how the children make meaning of what the materials are and how it feels for them, how grounding it is, letting it slip through their fingers, go under their fingernails to get on their clothes. And that's the fun part of just kind of discovering what the materials are. So they have so much fun in the greenhouse. Another thing that we use the greenhouse for is, like Ash said, a sanctuary. It is a place where when children are having a difficult time within the center, we'll just walk them down to the greenhouse. You know, it's a nice, calm space. They look at the fish, they mind all the things happening. We don't have to have a conversation. And then when they're in a calming place, you know, I'll ask, hey, do you feel like talking about what just happened? And by then, maybe they say they want to share it, or maybe they're like, you know what, I'm okay. I worked it out. And that place is just a wonderful place to be able to do that. When COVID happened, oh my goodness, the greenhouse was a saving grace for a lot of us parents who live on campus and had children, because it was a safe place to go when everyone was really nervous about being out in public. So we felt very, very blessed to be able to have this space to go and be with our children, and the outside space that we have where playgrounds were empty, but we had this wonderful playground space that our children can be and feel safe and still enjoy nature. So it was really wonderful to have.
And then on the next slide, we'll see the outdoor classroom, which is something that our teachers make use of all day, every day.
Yes. So whether it's cold or warm, we are outside. It would have to be the state would have to say we can't be outside for us to not go outside, because it is the best classroom that we have. If you see right at the top, we really use that. There are some categories that we really use the outside space for. So it's place-based learning, where they learn about just the places that they surround. They're going to learn about everything in there that they're curious about. And then play-based learning, inquiry-based learning, which is really important to get to ask questions, and then investigate to find out the answer to those questions, and then learn more questions. And it's just ongoing and ongoing and ongoing. And that's the fun part. And just a place to really enjoy and celebrate the learning and discovery that, you know, nature has to offer as a classroom. I remember when we first started the center, when the kids came in, they were so used to playing with toys. So when we went outside, they were like, "Oh, it's so boring out here. We don't have any toys out here." But then they learned to use their imagination. So every time people come, they're like, "There's no toys out here," and then the kids are like, "Let me show you what we can do with the yard. You're not using your imagination." So now they've learned to really play and utilize all the space that they have outside. They play with old tires, some massive baking pans that they use to slide down the hill with each other. If you see the bottom left, that's a teacher at range. And we had a massive puddle outside, and they were like, "We want to go outside and jump in that puddle. We've never seen a puddle that big before." So they went out and had fun in the puddle, and the teacher's like, "Sure, let's do it." And then a lot of great questions came out of that puddle. One child said, "Do you think we could drink this water?" And someone else said, "No, it's dirty." And then someone else said, "Well, what if we cleaned it?" And I was like, "Well, what do you think it would take to clean it?" And then we were able to really start investigating how people filter water, how we get water clean. So we find the best ways to explore life through questions that children have from being outside. And there's just so many more. The twigs, building a house for a bug that they saw on the floor. It's about to rain, and we're like, "Oh, maybe he needs a house." So they gathered up all the sticks to be able to find the house. So, she's making sure that he's safe in his new house. So it's just really wonderful how they utilize the outside space very freely as a learning space.
And then we can go through some of I know we're low on time, for some of the other slides, just to sort of show the pictures. These next slides are about some of the big themes of things that we care about a lot, and see if you can find Natasha on this slide planting her very own garden in our garden. So one of our favorite things is to make sure that everybody in our community who wants to grow can grow. So whether we're giving seedlings away to people to take home or giving folks space to grow right here on campus, we even have gone to some people's homes and helped them build their own garden, which has been really fun. And then on the next slide, you can see that we bring our middle schoolers over for learning as well. So part of my job is working with our teachers at the Early Learning Center in the middle school on making sure that we're doing learning outside. In the Early Learning Center, teachers are much more prepared to do that. They have the whole outdoor classrooms. They just step outside and they're already doing that. And at the middle school, we're inside the school building and it's a 3-minute walk away from the garden. And so I work closely with the middle school teachers to come up with lessons that really connect to their curriculum, that feel like they're not a huge stretch. Okay, we're learning about percents and rates in math. Let's do a germination test of our seeds. Let's see what percent sprout so we know how many to plant next year. And then we're able to do those projects, which has been really fun. And then on the next slide, you can see that we really want to honor our students in everything that we're doing and make sure that they are leading. So we ask our students what they want to grow, what they want to cook, and we make space for student innovation. We'll say like, "Hey, we have way too many bagels. What should we do with them?" And then we end up making bagel chips. And one of the things that's been the most fun has been having a chance to hire former students. So in the top right, you can see Dario, who I started working with when he was 10, and now he's 18. And he has been helping me run the program for the past 5 years. And you can see he's making pastel, which is a Cape Verdean delicacy, with things from the garden, with some middle school students, and then holding a pigeon pea in his hand, which was something that he was desperate for us to grow in the garden. And we were concerned because they're a tropical plant. How are we going to do it? But then we found, after lots of research from our favorite seed company, they're called True Love Seeds. If you're looking for a place to buy seeds, support True Love. They have a northern adapted pigeon pea that will survive in this climate. And so we were able to plant the pigeon peas in the greenhouse, transplant them outside, and then Dario is meeting his favorite food straight from the plant and seeing it. He picked it and then he opened it, and that was his first moment looking at it. And you can see in the bottom right that I really make sure that even our youngest children get to participate in all parts of the growing. So we've got some of our students planting parsley and watering it in really gently. And then
Next slide.
We wanted to, make some space to talk about the way our garden connects our community. And Natasha's going to tell us which of these pictures is her daughter. And why we
so
took
this
that
is one
picture.
of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
I have never met so many people. When I'm out in the garden, I meet so many people walking by. I try to spend as much time as I can, even when I'm not in school, outside in the garden. My daughter does not like tomatoes, but because we grew our own tomatoes in the garden, there she is picking them, and then we made it for dinner. So then we went out and we had a picnic outside in the garden, and we had, some vegetables we got from our garden and some spaghetti with sauce we made from the garden, and we were just sitting outside and people were walking by, and she's happy, she's so excited to share that she picked her own tomatoes and we made the sauce. So we're having conversations with everybody who walks by. And then our teaching fellows over at the middle school, they were moving in, and I usually never get to meet the middle school teaching fellows, but because we were out there having dinner at the time, we got to meet everyone coming in, and we introduced ourselves, and they came by, they stopped, they had some spaghetti and sauce with us and some salad, a little break for moving in. So it's just such a wonderful way to connect to your community. And we just love it so much. So the only tomatoes that my daughter will eat is the ones that we grow, because she says they taste sweeter because we made them.
And they do, it's true. They're the best. I've heard from so many other people that the tomatoes in particular are their favorite ones, and I love them too. And so it's really special. I think something unique about our school is that so many of us have lived on campus or do live on campus, even though our students don't. So our students go home for the night, but because housing's so expensive in Boston, they provide staff with more affordable housing. And I lived here on site too for a number of years and ended up moving up the street, but I'll pop back, I'll be like, oh, I really need some basil, gotta come back and pick something, and everybody in our community does. And it's a really natural way for us to meet each other and make sure that we all know each other. And one of my opinions is that knowing someone's favorite food is one of the most dear things we can know about someone. So if someone shares with me what they love to eat, I try to grow it and make sure we can all meet around that. And then we've got a silly picture to end it, and that was everything I had to say. I don't know if you wanted to share anything else, Natasha.
I could go on and on and on. I have a million stories about what we do here and being with the kids in the space. But we really do just have a wonderful time being outside. It is so grounding. It brings us together. There's a joy that comes with being outside that I think is unmatched anywhere else. The way the earth takes care of us and we take care of the earth. It's just this mutual love for each other. And I really believe the children are learning that from being in these spaces. They're happy inside, but they are just so joyful when they're outside. And it just warms my heart to see it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for those stories, Natasha and Ash. The pictures are just extremely beautiful and really give what I have said to both Ash and Natasha is that I want to be there in that space with you, just because it reminds me so much of the work that I'm trying to do as well. So now we have learned about the places where Natasha, Ash, Ardell, Elder Micheline are working from. Now let's get to know them a little bit more and understand how their upbringing, everything that they are, connect back to the work that they are doing. So we're gonna move on to the Q&A with the panelists. And after the Q&A, then we'll come back to and open the conversation to the larger group. I see a lot is going on in the chat. I'm not gonna look at it yet, just because I wanna make sure that we finish here and come back to all of you. So the first question, as we move on to the next stories, are, each and every one of you, please tell us what happened that led you to this work. What happened to you that led you to this work? And whoever feels like going up first, feel free. I'm not gonna call on anybody, and then we'll just move as we feel.
I can start. And in fact, what led me to this work is just a little bit of my background. I started working with people in Cameroon in many different areas. The first one was entrepreneurship. Then I started going to Cameroon with doctors and nurses. And then 1 year we couldn't go, and we realized that children were sick all the time. And I was sick here myself. I couldn't travel. And I was just thinking, what can we do? And one thing Natasha or Ash said was water. Water was the problem. There was drinking water that was not clean. How can we make water clean so that people will drink any water they can find and they will not be sick? So one thing to another, I was able to find very small miniature filters here that cost $25 and they last for 25 years. And I was able to raise money, and then I went back to Cameroon. And then children were not sick, but then they were hungry all the time because they don't have all the techniques how to grow food. And because things in Africa are passed orally, you know, if you happen not to be there to mimic, to remember, then you don't remember, but people do remember. Then they start growing food that was only for them to eat. They had other basic needs, you know, books here, clothes there, and then we just start talking and thinking and strategizing, and we said, you know what? At there was at one point since the war started in Ukraine, we realized that there was no flour to eat. Flour is basic in many foods that people eat. And then we said, why don't we just make our own flour with sweet potatoes? So that led to talking together, bringing women together. And this was really like this. What you saw in the pictures is just a pépinière. It's a small setting of what we're doing, bringing people together, those who want to work together, those who want to learn new techniques. And really, that's what led us to start what you saw. So the focus really is to grow sweet potatoes, reinforce people to use, rather than imported food that could bring other things that we don't know, because we don't know how they are really packaged and how they end up in the plates or pots. So we're growing these sweet potatoes, which are gluten-free, which people will like Natasha's daughter, because they grow them themselves.
Thank you so much, Elder Micheline. What happened to you that led you to this work? This is the question that we are answering. Just because we have a time frame, I'm gonna call on you. So let me call on you. All right, Natasha, I see you really follow on that one.
Well, for me, I grew up outside. My first everything, my first experiences with literacy were from outside, were from hearing, you know, stories from my family, songs being sung by my family. My great grandmother, I was her twin. Wherever she was, I was. So she used to sell fruits in the town. And that's where I learned my math. You know, counting with my grandmother. I learned my colors, all the different vegetables and fruits that she sold. I had the best time with my grandmother until someone said, okay, she should probably go to school. Like I thought I was in school, you know? I learned so much being with my great grandmother, and just being outside. Was just so wonderful and grounding for me. So as much as I enjoyed that as a child, I really wanted to be able to have that for our kids here in Dorchester or in urban areas, and just to show, hey, we can do this. You know, we don't all have to live on massive farms. We can start from small and just grow up. Or maybe we just keep it sustainably small, you know, but we can all do this. So just helping everyone to know that how doable it is, you know, and it doesn't have, you know, it doesn't have to be you growing massive things in your house or you have to have a big yard. It can start with a walk and smelling a flower and having a conversation, you know, and then maybe that flower we can grow that flower in a pot at home and then see how that goes. It can go just taking care of your spaces, picking up, you know, piece of trash you see walking by. You know, this is your community. You love it. You take care of it together. So just, you know, walking, you know, outside barefoot, but maybe dangerous some places. But, you know, in a safe space like here, you know, please go for it. There's just something grounding about feeling your feet in the dirt or your feet on the grass that just connects you to you just feel lovely and wonderful with the world. In the summertime, I go outside every single day. Every teacher will tell you here. I go outside when everyone's napping. I go outside, I take my shoes off, and I sit outside with my feet on the sand, rolling my toes in the sand or maybe on the dirt. I do it every single day. And it is one of the calmest times that I have in my day. And I just wish everyone had the opportunity to be able to do that. So this is just wonderful for me to be able to be a part of this program and doing this here in the city.
Thank you so much, Natasha.
I can.
Ash, please go. I see your mic is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah. What Natasha was just speaking about really reminded me of a powerful moment I had. I grew up spending a lot of time in my mother's gardens. They're absolutely beautiful. She grows so many flowers. And so from an early age, I was doing that. But you know, since it was my mom doing it, it wasn't that cool sometimes to me when I was a kid. And she said, you know, you can have a vegetable patch. And I didn't really take care of it. But I loved my uncle who lived in North Carolina, far away. And we would go drive for 2 days to go visit him. And one time, once I had turned 16, I could fly by myself to go visit him. And I went in the middle of the summer. And it was very hot because it was North Carolina. It was maybe 90 something degrees out. And he said, I really need some help. It's actually the sweet potato planting. So I loved that video was about sweet potato planting because it was a really big moment for me of we took he plants it a little bit differently. We take each slip and place them about a foot apart. And he had these wooden tools he had carved himself that we would use to push them in the ground. And then we came behind watering by hand. And I did that with him for a few days, and my feet were also bare. And I felt so grounded with my feet in the soil, with the sun on my body, pushing the slips of sweet potato into the ground. And then I went back to school, and my uncle mailed me a box of sweet potatoes that fall when he harvested them, and I really enjoyed them. And it was around then, I think, that I started to really know that I wanted to grow food as something that I did. But I came to school here in the city, and I was shocked by being in a city. And I started to become really fascinated by the way people make sure that the city isn't a really isolated place. You know, people have been growing food in the city because they didn't have access to good grocery stores. For many, many reasons for a really long time. And I started to learn from people who were growing in the city. And I knew I had wanted to be a teacher since I was very, very young as well. And I found out about Epiphany, and I ended up working here right around the time that Epiphany wanted to start a garden program. And it just felt like the perfect moment to bring these things that had been the most meaningful things in my life, working with young people and growing food together in a place where the community was really excited to start a garden program. So I feel really lucky to have been here then. And I've learned so much from everybody in the garden, and it keeps me wanting to keep doing this work.
What a beautiful story. Thank you, Ash. Ardell.
One thing I wanted to add, if I may, is that, you know, people have a tendency to always want it something new and probably sometimes just not use what they have. And one tendency in Cameroon that we've noticed is that the rural area is being emptied. People want to move to the city where there is nothing to do for them, and they end up, you know, in other bad things like crime and so on and so forth. So for us also, this is a way to remind us ourselves, you know, what we have lived in the past, we can still live it and have what we need at the same time. So this in a way also help to limit the exodus, you know, to big cities and leaving all that big land you saw empty.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for adding that. Yes, yes. Let's go to toward the final. Ardell, do you want to add anything about what led you to this work?
Well, what led me to this work, you know, it's nothing that really happened to me personally. My family, we are all very close. And when you see somebody doing something that's going to be for the greater good, there's nothing more infectious than that. You know, you want to be part of it somehow, some way with the capabilities that you have. And seeing my mom and my sister going back to Cameroon, and especially my sister reclaiming her Bassa roots, I was like, you know, I'm it's not like I'm necessarily wanting to reclaim that. I just want to be part of it because it sounds cool. So that's what really led me doing this. And as a human being, I am learning, you know, and me learning is also I'm also going to show my daughters, hey, here's where I'm from. It's probably not as cool as being here where we live, but I think it's going to be something that's going to benefit you later on in life. So I'm starting late, but I'm going to make sure that you're starting early and truly know where you're from. So that's what led me here. You're muted, Veronica.
Thank you so much. We have seen how you engage with families. We have seen really, you've spoke about the benefit of the work that you do, but what does it truly mean to be in nature and with nature? What are those benefits that you have either seen or that you have experienced by being in nature? And Natasha, you talked a little bit about this by just going into the sand and just dipping your feet in it and just looking for calmness. So what are those other things that you have felt as a result of doing this work and working alongside with families?
I think I'll go.
Go ahead. I was gonna say let's go in reverse order, so you read my mind.
Perfect. So you know, being in nature really forces me to not seek instant gratification. You know, I am a millennial, and as you all know, millennials are, when we want something, we want it right away, right now. There's no waiting. So by being in the nature, it forces you to calm down and really look around at what you have and understanding what is also happening in front of you. When we went to Cameroon, when I went to Cameroon this past summer, with my sister, my mom, and my dad, when we went back to Malmont, I really reconnected with nature not even reconnected. I connected for the very first time with nature in a way that I have never done before. You know, just waking up with the sun. As the sun rise, my body automatically arise as well. And I didn't need an alarm to do that. I was just hearing the sound of the birds, and I was like, oh, okay, it's time to get up now, and it's time to get ready and go about your day. And and also So something happened when we were planting that I just feel like I need to share. So we were, um, as you saw in the video, we were planting those vines, and I was concerned because I thought it was going to rain. So I'm looking up and I see dark clouds coming, and and then we have Marie-Jeanne. I was telling her, "Hey, I think it's about to rain. I think we need to go." And she looked up and she's like, "Oh no, we have about 2 hours left of work. We will be fine." And I was just amazed as how could she know this just by looking at the sky and understanding what was happening. And I feel like this is something that I personally do not would never be able to identify just with the look up to the sky. And and to be honest, and she was right. We worked for about 2 hours, and when we started our walk back to the center, as we stepped foot in the house, it literally started to rain. I was just like, wow. I wish I could be able to not predict the time that way, but to be connected with nature in that manner, just to be able to understand what is happening around me. So
Thank you for that wonderful story. And you and the weather woman. Ash, you want to go?
Sure. Oh, well, there are so many reasons I love being outside and being outside with young people. A few portraits, I think sometimes I feel exhausted sitting at the computer planning whatever, just like, okay, I know I'm reaching my breaking point with focusing. It's time to go focus outside, and I'll go outside and I can go pick some herbs or, work on weeding an area or trellising a plant or whatever needs to happen outside. And I am able to get the jitters out, refocus, and move on to something else. So for me, it's instantly grounding, and it helps clear my mind. And I think when I feel very stressed, I know if I have that sensory experience, even just stepping into the greenhouse, like Natasha was sharing, bringing a distressed kid in there, well, it works for me too. I'm like, okay, whatever hasn't gone right, I'm going to take a moment, and then I'll feel a lot better. And so sometimes, even if it's the weekend, I'm like, okay, I need a break. I'm going to go to work, have a moment in the greenhouse, have a moment in the garden, and I know everything will become more clear and I'll feel reset. And I see that with my students, and it's really it's amazing to have a space where I can bring kids and we're working on one activity and maybe we're doing something really fine detail. And some kid really needs to move a lot more. And so I'll say, hey, I actually have a digging project. Do you need to go dig right now? And that person might say, yes, it is time for me to dig. Like, here's a shovel. We need a hole over there. And then after a bit of digging, someone will have calmed down so much. And so I think the way doing things doing work in the garden really helps to pull us back into a different state of mind. And I love also like Ardell, like you were sharing about the way as millennials we just want things instantly. That the slow down has been it's been really powerful to start to become friends with entire lineages of plants where I met this plant a few years ago, and now I've saved the seed and we've replanted, and I've saved the seed and we've replanted, and I watched the plant grow throughout the whole season, and then we're taking the seeds again. I now feel very I feel like these plants are my friends, my family members in a certain way, and like I know them quite well and they know me, and it takes time, and it takes years, and that's been really powerful too.
Beautiful. I love the connections that are being made within the stories and really what it takes to get to know a plant and build that relationship with the plant as we build relationship with humans, and everything takes time. Definitely. Thank you. Natasha, would you like to go?
Yes. So connecting it with time. Whenever thinking as an educator, whenever we say we're going to sprout seeds, the advice you get is, okay, just make sure you start it at home first, so you have all the different stages, because the kids are going to be anxious to see what it looks like when it's fully grown. And I said, well, why do we have to do that? I said, let's try to just talk to children about the process of this. And it's not going to happen quickly, and that's okay. We can just be in the process with the seed. So, you know, I was thinking it's really abstract to think about time in that way when you're so little. So think about it as like me growing. So I brought pictures of me from like a baby and like every year of my life for like, you know, or just about every year of my life until I was that age. And I said, look, it took this long for me to be this person, for me to be an adult and fully grown. But I had to go through all these stages and all these different experiences. So as I'm showing them the photos of myself at different ages, I'm telling them the story of me in the photo. So they can, you know, put together, hey, I'm experiencing this thing in this time until I get to this age. So I wanted them to really understand there's a story in the process of growing, you know, and it takes time for me to go to get from here to here, just like it's going to take the seed time to get from a seed to a full grown plant to produce all the things that it needs to produce when it's fully grown. And they really, really got that like concrete concept, you know, so no one was, you know, saying, oh, I want to see it when it gets, they were really excited to see the process and know that it's going to take time. And, you know, we mapped out on the calendar when we're going to visit it again. When do you think it might sprout? When do you think it might sprout the next seed? How, when do you think the root may get longer? So we did other things, you know, to watch the time go by and think about all the things that will happen to the seed while it's growing to be this full grown like adult. So I think that concrete representation was really powerful. And from that time, I've never done the, I'm going to grow it early so that we have all the different stages, you know, because I think there's power in explaining it to children that way. Nothing happens quickly, and to get to be cultivated the way we want to be cultivated, it's going to take time. And we're just going to experience it and have fun in the process.
Wow, what a beautiful way to really put in parallel the growth of a human with the growth of a plant and what it takes. You know, you can't disregard it. And with the kids being able to understand the different processes that it takes to get there, in their mind, they're also connecting, making connection with what is happening. That's from an educator to another, beautifully represented. Thank you. Elder Micheline, do you want to close us off with this question?
Well, I'm just going to say a story of what I've observed, because going back to Cameroon and reconnecting with all these children you saw us working with, at times at night, I would work with them on their homework, you know, adding, multiplying, and science, geography, and everything. And it was, there was one child that you probably didn't see. She is about 5 or so, and she needed to learn how to count. And it was so easy to make her count those vines we needed to add, to plant. She was able to count them easily, remove what was not needed, and in that way, I just explained to her quickly what was addition, what was subtraction, and it just clicked so easily. And for me, it was like I didn't have to go home and teach her mathematics. How do you add? How do you subtract? She got the concept right there in the farm. Things she was doing, but not really connecting the dots.
Yes, thank you. And it brings back also Natasha's story of literacy, how she truly learned those literacy skills by being with her great-grandmother. Sometimes it doesn't take that much, just going back to the land and connecting those concepts to really what a classroom is doing, but in a very sanitized context, if I want to put it that way. So I want to switch and really open the floor to the community, and really, and that invitation comes in the form is, what did you see from both centers? Any similarities, any differences? What are your questions? What questions do you bring with you as you heard everything that has been said, those stories that have been shared with you? So let's opening up to the floor, and please raise your hand as you wish to talk, and I'll call on you and we'll go like that. Yes, Maya, go ahead.
I wanted to ask, why did the women have to travel to plant the sweet potatoes? Why is it?
I'll
Sorry.
answer the question. So in the Basa community, there are jobs that are mainly that are done mainly by women, and jobs that are mainly done by men. And my mom is, I'm sure she's probably going to emphasize onto that, because as I am still learning those traditions as well. And planting those sweet potatoes is a job that are just done by women. Mom, do you know specifically why only women do those and not men?
Well, you know, what you saw is planting, but before planting, there is clearing the land.
Mhm.
Clearing the land, it's a forest. You probably saw children walking on trees that were already fallen. Those are heavy jobs that demand a lot of strength, and usually men just don't want the women to go and do that. So they do that work ahead of time, months ahead of time, and they leave those that seem to be easy to women. So that's how the work is separated. So when they are planting, they are already out there clearing another land for the next planting. So basically, that's why you see men. You probably saw a young boy there who was clearing the land for us, because those areas were pretty hefty and they really require, they're doing it by hand. Those are things that we're even working to see how we can bring some, we can mechanize some of this work. I don't know if that answer, I mean, if it helps you to understand why there is that division.
Thank you.
And if I may add, Maya, so there are, just like you saw on the map that Ash shared, Ash and Natasha shared, there are spaces that are meant for agricultural purposes and other spaces that are meant for other things. So the space that was meant to plant the sweet potato vine, where by car it's far, but by foot it's not that far. And because we had because we had the bags that need to be transported, so we took the long way around so that we could use the car to drop off the bags, and also not have to walk, because that means you have to walk back and forth, you know, to go into the space that has been dedicated to plant sweet potatoes.
You're muted.
Oh, go ahead, Natasha.
So there was a quote when I was watching the documentary there. The narrator said, the caption said, he said, "Never give the vine to the person. You put it on the land, and then the person picks it up." What is the significance of that? That popped out to me around, like, I need to know why that is.
Yes. So I made that mistake. So as we were cutting those vines, I actually handed the vines that I was cutting to Ma Fidel, and she told me to not give it to her, but to put it on the ground first, and then she will pick it up. And the significance of that is she is not stealing my my chances, or what's the better word that I'm looking for? She is not stealing my chances of having this vine produce what it's meant to be produced. So by putting it on the ground, I am keeping my own chances, and she's also keeping hers, so that everything works in harmony. So that's the significance of it.
Thank you. I've been waiting to ask that question.
Yeah. Yeah, I made that mistake a couple of times, and the third time it sunk in. I didn't do it again.
I have a question for Natasha. You said that you enroll families the moment you know they're pregnant. Do they come to you, or how do you advertise? How do you get people to enroll? I know that maybe just by passing by, some people would know, but do you have any mechanism in enrolling families?
Yes, we do. So we partner with our local health centers, our WIC offices, other partners that provide like housing security, things like that, material security for families. Like one of our partners is Room to Grow, and they provide actual material things, for parents when they give birth, whether it's clothes, strollers, baby bottles, shoes. So we partner with people who specifically work with families that are high needs. So that, let's say someone goes to our local health center and they find out, hey, I'm pregnant. The local health center be like, we know the perfect place for you, So then we get their information, and then they also send along the information to us just in case that person doesn't reach out. We'll reach out, and then that's how we make connections. So we definitely don't wait to think, hey, this person walking by or so forth. We are very intentional about making partnerships with places. To be able to find the people that we think would benefit most from our programs. But they also have to be very willing. We also say we are super nosy and we will be all in your business. So you have to be very willing to be to really take on the whole program. So you can't say, hey, we just want childcare. Yes, you can get childcare, but you're also going to get, we're also going to find out, do you feel safe? Do you need food security? What about housing? Do you have a safe home that you're living in? What about work? What about school? How can we get you to, help you pursue these things that you have, the dreams that you have, the goals you have for your life? Because we want you to be successful as an entire family unit.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha, for answering that question. There is a question in the chat that I would like to read as I'm scrolling through. Do you connect literature to your outdoor programs and classroom? And what are some of your favorites?
Yes, we do. We have so many. I had some photographs with tons of books just lined up outside that we use. We have lots of books on, we do a lot of things with birds and just like trees in general and leaves. Like basically, when we're outside, when the children voice anything they're interested in, we will pursue that interest. So there's not just random books that we maybe go out and buy, but when a child says, hey, they ask a question or make an observation, we'll scaffold through that and then see how we can find materials or literature to help explore those ideas or thoughts that the children have. And that's how we've actually collected all our books. We didn't really go out and just buy stuff and then see if the kids would be interested in learning the things in the book. We just kind of went with what we heard them talking about. So if anyone knows me, they know I never really answer a question when a child asks me a question. But well, why do you think? How? When? Where? Who? I wonder. What if? Those are my go-tos, so that we can just keep that thinking going. So they may find the answer to one question, but then we'll come in with another question, and then it just extends it. And then sometimes they may lose interest, so we just put things in the parking lot. We have this bulletin board that we just take pictures and like documentations, and we will literally put it on the bulletin board for another time where they might be interested, because maybe a month from now they'll see something outside that they make a connection to, and then we can revisit it. But we don't ever end anything. We just kind of always put things in the parking lot with the understanding that they have learned all they needed to learn at that particular time on the topic, but it's not final. We'll build on that later.
Thank you, Natasha. And this is what you described is a little bit of a process that the center in Cameroon is also trying to go to. So the first phase is documenting the process. Then the second phase is we will actually use those images to then create graphic novels that will serve as books. So we are at the center, we are developing the books that are going to be supporting the learning throughout. We are developing it as we go. And those are some of the needs that are coming up. And especially when you talk about math, it was easy for one of the girls at the center to learn it by engaging with agricultural practices. But when you remove her from that context, math does not make sense anymore. So that's the way that the center in Cameroon is also attempting to create a library that is going to support the learning before the kids or the families even enter the programs that is being developed. And let me read the question here. Is the sweet potato farming program at a school run by your family? It's a program that is actually city, it's not city, but it's for the communities let me back up. The land was donated so that communities can come and practice techniques that respond to global warming. Because what has happened in the area is that crops were dying and people did not know what to do. So as a result of those questions, what was created is that Micheline and Eugene actually donated, I believe it was 10 acres of land, so that the community can come and practice those techniques and relearn the ancestral techniques. And we have elders who come through and are able to not only explain what's going on, but also walk us through that process. So yes, and sweet potato is just one thing that is done at the center. We also have cacao that is being planted, and that's done by the men. But for the purposes of this workshop, we only highlighted the women because they are core to the development of the child and also the growth of the family. And I don't know if anybody wants to add anything else on that. Micheline, Ardell?
No, for example, we're not there at this moment. We're here in the United States and it's still running. So it's really run by the community. What we just make sure is that since it requires funding, it requires other things that are not available. So we work in those surroundings, and we kind of like just an umbrella, but it's really run by the community. And as you heard, Manshan, who was there, is the one mainly leading it on the ground. And we are trying to look for grants because we don't just want to end there by growing sweet potatoes at a very low scale. We want this family to be self-sufficient. We want them to be able to have all all the basic needs, and it may be not even above that. So at this school, what we are providing, like what we have in the goals for next year, is to extend and grow more. We have opened a credit union. We're opening a credit union this year, so that what we sell and any money that remuneration that women will have, they can start saving. So we're really teaching them many things to be, just to be able to live in the village, you know. Like me, I only feel well when I'm back there. Not that I'm not well here, but I need to exercise. I have to pay for to go in a gym. I have to pay to go to swim. Over there, I do my hiking normally, and at the same time, I'm working and helping the community. So it's everybody. It's not just the family thing, but the family is involved because we just like, that's our way of living. That's how we grew up.
Thank you for answering that. And Ash and Natasha, thank you for taking care of the questions in the chat as they're coming. There is a final question, and we're gonna close with this. And the question is, in the planting of sweet potatoes, there wasn't visible watering. There wasn't watering. So do you have available water, or does it depend on rainfalls?
It depends on rainfalls. That's why we have Mary Jeanne looking at the sky, letting us know when it's gonna rain. I'm just joking, but no, we do actually depend on the rainfall. And as Elder Micheline said, that umbrella that we have, we're looking at ways not just to depend on rainfall, and also trying to come up with ideas on how we can, you know, create a watering system with all the rivers that we have around us, and really much making use of the nature that is available. And something that we probably did not mention, but those fields that we have in Maman, they are rich, and they are very, and they're not exploited to the fullest. And we are trying to teach all these agricultural methods to the women, as well as making sure that they are also understanding what is happening around them, and also kind of being their own, have like this entrepreneurial mindset, that they're not just like waiting for the umbrella to come and find all the solutions, but also helping them to think for themselves and how they can make things better for themselves.
And Allison, I will say that you are invited to come and help find us even more appropriate solutions. We love having people. That's the best way to make things grow, and to also improve in some of the knowledge, because sometimes it's about looking at what is available now that was available then, and filling out that gap. So anybody, and should I speak for you, Natasha? But I bet you will love to also have people in the community come by and just give a hand.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what a community is, right? That is what a community is. One more really great thing that I forgot to mention when I was talking about the school, but Ash mentioned it in the chat, is that we are a tuition-free school. So no one who attends the school pays tuition. We are funded by very generous donors and grants that make it possible for us to be a tuition-free school.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all of you for being here with us today. I'm gonna stop here, and thank you for all the great comments also that I saw in the chat. I'm gonna turn it back to Dana, who is gonna close us off with some more announcement. Thank you for your attention and your participation in this, and we will see you in the coming the upcoming workshops. Thank you, Dana, back to you.
I just want to thank you all for such an incredible evening. I feel like you have given us such rich experiences of connections with the land in so many different places. So I appreciate that, especially in the middle of winter in Boston. It was really inspiring as a teacher. And we want to invite you all to join us. Hopefully we'll have one more workshop later this spring. We're still working on that. So we will send out information about that as soon as it becomes available. And we will also be sending professional development forms to all of you in the next couple of days. So just be waiting for those in your email. And then I'm just going to turn it over to Meg, the head of our program, to finish us off for the evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you to all our wonderful panelists. We're so lucky to have you. I just want to close out by noting that our early childhood program here in the Graduate School of Ed at Lesley offers licensure programs, professional programs, a graduate certificate in innovative pedagogies, for which we will put the link in the chat. And so we just want to make all of those resources available to you. We do have an upcoming course this spring. It's a weekend intensive, so if you're a working teacher, you can make it, and you can take it for PDPs, you can take it for graduate credit. So all of those types of opportunities are on our website, and we would just love to have you join us for any of those. Thank you again to everybody. This was a wonderful turnout. We're so happy you were able to join us. Thank you again to this incredible panel. What a wonderful opportunity to hear about your work. If you have any questions about our series, Dana's amazing organizational work on our series, and all your hard work, Dana, about programs, professional development, please just be sure to reach out. My email is mburns9, if that helps, at Lesley, but anyone else through our website, you can reach us as well, and we're always eager to hear from you. So thank you all so much for being here. And Marianne Adams has put some links in the chat about all of that, so thank you.
It'll take me about a week to get you your recordings, but you'll get a link to it soon and your certificates. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Marianne, for doing all of the certificate work. Good to see everybody.
One quick thing I wanted to share, if anyone is, this was being recorded, but we did not get any permissions for the photos of the children. So this is just for you, and please not share the photos of the children in spaces.
Thank you for that reminder, Natasha.
Thank you.